Hi guys, I had a haul yesterday, and in my haul I picked up some Bic Mark-it Markers, which look like this, and I also picked up a Copic colorless blender, this, and I had a couple people ask me to show them what you can do with it or how it works, so I thought I would show you what I've learned. First, I have to start off by saying I am no expert when it comes to markers or Copics or anything or coloring, but I can just share with you what I've learned so far. Okay? So let me get this situated real quick, and we'll get started. Okay, let me zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So the first thing I should tell you is that the Copic blender, the colorless blender, is not actually a blender pen. It's actually like a an ink remover. It erases the ink, and it doesn't erase it. It moves it around, so you can use it kind of like an eraser. But there's a couple different things you can do with it. The first thing you can do is fix mistakes. So let's say, well, let me color this. Let me color in a section first. Okay. So these are the Bic Mark-it Markers, and they're alcohol markers, and if you know what you're doing, you can blend with them similar to what people do with Copics. They're not as good as Copics, of course, but if you can't afford Copics, then these are a pretty good, a pretty good choice. You can also get Prismacolor pens and Sharpies. I think those are all alcohol markers as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, I put in the lighter color first, and then I'm just going to do this darker color around the edges. And I'm going to make a mistake, and I'm going to color outside the line right there. You see where I colored outside the line? So the first thing that I can do with this colorless blender is with this tip, the chisel tip. You take your pen and you push the ink in like this. You just push it in towards your image, and you let it dry in between, each layer, but you just push it like this, and little by little it's going to push the ink that way. So make sure you don't go like this, because then you're just going to pull the ink out. So you just kind of go like this and push the ink back into the image, and see how it's gone? It's practically erased. So what it did was it pushed the image, or the ink, back into the image. So that's the first thing that you can do, is fix mistakes. The second thing you can do is highlight with it. Let me just go over this again. This kind of shows how you can blend. If you use your light pen and then your darker pen, and then you take this lighter pen and you go back over it, see how that outer part is blending with the inner part? And they say to color in circles too, so that's what I'm doing. See how it's all blended in together now? And apparently with alcohol markers you can't put too much ink on it, so you're not supposed to worry about the paper getting too wet. Sounds good to me. Okay, so the next thing you can do, and use this tip I guess, is lighten an area. So let's say that we want to lighten this part right here to highlight it. You just kind of color over it, and see how the ink is disappearing in that area? It's actually being pushed outwards. It's getting darker right here, and right here in the middle where I colored is lighter. See that? And I guess you can use that to highlight and sort of blend. I mean, it sort of looks like if you don't have a color that will blend the two colors together, you can kind of do that and then use it as a middle color, if that makes any sense. Another thing that people do with the colorless blender, they use it as a base. And I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes. We'll go ahead and try it, just because I've never done it before. But you just, from what I've heard, you color in the image, and then you use your marker. And apparently it makes it smoother or something, makes it easier to blend. So we'll color it and see if it makes a difference. And I'm coloring in circles because that's what the video told me to do. Okay, so then I'm going to take the darker one and see if it makes a difference. Oops, see, I just went outside the line, so I'll use my blender and see if I can fix that. So here's the darker part. And then I'm going to go back with the lighter one and do circles and try to blend it. Oh wow, that does make it blend easier. Wow. Okay, so I guess if you use it as a base, it does make it blend easier. So see how that's all blended together now? Okay. So I'm going to take this tip and go to this section right here and try to push it back in because I went outside of the line. And then I'm going to wait a minute. La-di-da-di-da. And push it back. Push it again. And see how it's disappearing? And also right here, I went outside you can see where I went outside. I want to push that in. And over here, I went outside too. So I could just go like this and push it in and do several layers of it. But I'm not gonna do the whole thing. I just want to show you how it works. So see how that's fixed? Okay. So another thing that you can do with the Copic colorless blender, get it out, cat, is create a texture or a pattern on your colored image. So let's say, for instance, let me make sure that I'm in frame here. Let's draw a square. And we're going to color the square in real quick. Okay, so within our square, we want to make some polka dots and some lines, okay? We want to add a pattern to it. So what we're going to do is take our Copic blender pen, and with this end, we're going to just make some circles. So there's a circle, and you're going to see it get lighter right away. There's another one, and another one. And you just wait a second while it lightens up, and then you can go over it again to make it a little lighter. And then let's say that we want some lines. I'm going to draw a line here, and here, and here. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is when you do this with the colorless blender, the ink is pooling around the circle where I marked it. That's because the ink it's not actually erasing it, it's pushing the ink outwards. So, like for instance, when you do these lines, if I were to start from here and go all the way to the end down here, it might push the ink outside of my line here. So I want to be real careful that when I do this, I start over here away from the edge, and when I go down, I stop before I get to the end. Because if I see how it's getting really light? If I keep going, I'll show you. I'll just keep going and show you. It's going to start bleeding. See how it's starting to bleed out here outside of the line? And see how it's getting darker around the outside? It's pushing it too far. So when you do make a line, you want to kind of do it carefully like this and stop before you get to the edge. So as you can see, you can make polka dots, you can make striped lines, you can do them thinner. Like over here, I've done them a little thinner. And then there's one more thing that you can do with it. Let me show you that real quick. Hold on. Okay. So the last thing that I know of that you can do with this, if you don't want the color to be as dark as this, you can take your Copic colorless marker or blender and touch it to the marker and then color with that. And see how it's the same color but it's a lighter shade? Can you see how I'm doing that? So that's the other thing that you can do with it. So as far as I know, those are all the things that you can do with the Copic colorless blender pen. And again, like I said, I'm not an expert, as you can tell, but that's an example of the things that you can do. So I hope that that helps you guys, and if anybody knows any tips that I don't know about, just leave a comment and let me know, because I'd love to know more. And if you're interested in you know, some other tutorials, just do a search on YouTube for Copic tutorials or something like that, and you'll come up with a bunch of them. So I wasn't able to find any about the Bic markers, except for one at Stamp TV, and I'm going to put a link down below the description here to the video where Stamp TV, the lady from Stamp TV, shows how to color with these Bic Mark-it markers. Okay? So thanks for watching, guys, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.